Okay, and you can tell John and I why we're both wrong for being dual citizens.
Well, because I mean, that's easy.
And then we're going to bring in Aquiles.
Honest to God, because I wonder Achilles might have something to weigh in on this.
Oh, here we go. We'll bring him in right now.
Yeah, bring him on in. That way y'all can all tell me how I'm wrong.
All right, so here's Aquiles Larrea. He's from the head of Larrea Wealth Management, the author of a new book. Aquiles, nice to see you. We're going to be talking about the economy, but there's a lot of economic news. But let's talk about, so keep going, Robbie.
Okay, well, how I see it with dual citizenship is that what is an escape valve. If you think that things are getting bad in the country that you live in, say, oh, screw it. It doesn't impact me. You can just take your shekels, go somewhere else, and say the hell with it. So you take all the benefits, take all the money, take all the resources, go somewhere else. You have nothing vested in the future. That's the problem with dual citizenship. I mean, my family's been here since the 1600s. My ancestors are buried here. I'm not going anywhere. If this country falls apart and dies, I'm going on with it because I have nowhere else to go. My kids have nowhere else to go. I have a vested interest to make it better.
Robbie, we can have a gay marriage. I'll bring you with me to France.
No, I'm not a sodomite. Sorry, that's just not going to work. Well, then let's just say that
gay marriage.
Whatever, it's not going to happen. But no, honest to God, though, I mean that's my argument about it. If you care about the country that you're in, if you love your country, you have to be invested in the future. That's why having kids is so important. That's why your citizenship matters. That's why Trump's selling citizenship with his gold card is such a stupid fucking thing to do. It cheapens citizenship. What's the point? If you can just buy it, what the hell is this? Is this Rome?
Well, see, I'm always hot for Rome arguments. Currently reading Wealth and what is it called? Thrones and Power. By Dan Jones, Pop History of of the collapse of the Roman Empire in the Middle Ages. So good book, well worth reading. Very fun read. Robbie, I'm going to let you have the last word on that point, and we're going to bring in Aquiles right now. So Aquiles Larrea, thank you so much for joining us, friend of the show.
Pleasure to be here as always, guys.
As always. So
good to see you.
The polls are very clear. The American people, left, right, and middle, all want the president to focus on affordability. I wrote my syndicated column last week about how, in my opinion, the last thing we want is to risk a deflationary spiral by actually succeeding in dropping prices. What we really need is more income for American workers so that people can pay these higher prices. What say you on that? And then I want to ask you about the AI bubble talk.
Yeah, it's very interesting when we talk about that. We've seen wage stagflation for more than a decade right now. Wages have not kept up with the cost of living. And it's very interesting. I don't know if you're following this across the country, but it's very interesting to see that Starbucks with its unions, they're walking the picket line right now. Any effective change, now you don't have to be the biggest union fan per se, but how does change get affected in this country? It was done through unions protesting. You know, the average office worker cannot do that because most states have an at-will employment where they can dump you at the drop of a hat, kind of like what John was pointing to before with the CIA. So going back, you know, with that wage stagflation, unless we see some dramatic change from corporations where they start to flow some of that cash flow that normally goes to the CEOs and to shareholder values, I don't foresee any affordability per se. And I'm going to give you a case in point. I always go to the rice example in the Asian markets. All right. I go to the Asian supermarkets here, H Mart, and there are quite a few here in New York City. And these guys, just not even 3 months ago, guys, they were at $24 to $26 for a 20-pound bag of rice, white rice, jasmine rice. And that same bag, I went to H Mart yesterday, just cost me $34, $36. So the perfect example of the inflation.
Close to 50% price increase.
Correct. And that's not the only place we're seeing it, but that is the place where the American consumer is seeing it on a regular basis. It's thrown in your face. You say, Christmas, not a bah humbug, but Christmas, holy cow. And then to top it off, these tariffs, whether they go through or not, that's on the higher end. You're not just going to affect the low level consumer, you're affecting the higher level consumer who's going and buying these different items and going to have to pay 30 to 50% more, guys. So the question becomes, what can this administration do to make sure that the affordability comes into play? And it seems that New York is front and center in a lot of cases because the cost of living is so high. That's why this mayor was elected, right or wrong, but it is the perception that people have going to the store, paying the rent, regular cost of living, gasoline. We've seen a jump in gasoline as well here. So,
Aquiles, are the inflation numbers bullshit? I mean, there was a
Good question.
There was a
they're
website.
lower. They're lower than you think.
That's what I mean.
Than being reported. That's for sure. All right.
You mean,
My
wait, you think
opinion-
inflation is lower than being reported?
I'm sorry.
The other way around.
The other way around. So, yeah. I
mean, there's a
personally-
website called Shadow Government Statistics that has argued for years that the actual real inflation rate, the way that it used to be calculated when we were kids, is closer to 10, 12, 13%.
Yeah, it looks like we're going back to where we were during the Biden administration, but some areas are worse.
Because I just don't believe all those years where it was like, oh, inflation rate is 1%. It's like, where? I mean, some things don't go up, right? Like a TV is ridiculously cheap. Like I'm almost suspicious that a flat screen TV for $212 isn't going to blow up my house, but it won't. It's a beautiful, amazing device. But most things, right? I mean, all the big expenses, right? Housing, fuel, transportation, education, healthcare, they're all through the roof.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that the inflation numbers do not take the consumer into account. I mean, if you look at the CPI number, Consumer Price Index number, perfect example, it excludes certain expenditures that we as consumers see on a normal basis. Then the Fed will look not at the CPI, they're going to look more at the PPI, which is the Producer Price Index, to X that amount out of the equation and go with the wholesale numbers. So yeah, we are seeing numbers that are quite skewed. I think that the inflation rate is closer to 5-6% at this point. I think the Fed has still work to do. I think cutting these interest rates down is a good start, but I think we have to make things more affordable for the consumer, and that is not going to go away. And unless wage stagflation starts to take front and center in the conversation with corporations, with not only sustainability, but affordability, and making, a sense of, one thing's to have shareholder value. I get it. You want to enhance shareholder value. Your bonus depends on if you're a CEO, but at the same time, you got to say, hey, why is my employee living out of his car in California, coming into work, going to Planet Fitness to shower and
the current CEO of Ford was just interviewed by Fortune magazine. He had a piece that that really blew up on the internet. Basically, Henry Ford was famous for doubling his workers' salaries to say, I want I believe $5 an hour back in 100 years ago, saying I want my employees to be able to buy my cars. It's not because I'm a nice person. And Henry Ford was not a nice person.
No, he was ruthless.
And but the thing is that it was self-interest, right? The new CEO talked about because of the way the bifurcated labor contracts basically made it so that the new hires in the factories were making $17 an hour. Some of these guys are like suffering mental health issues. They're working at the factory, then they go work at an Amazon warehouse all night long. They come in after 2 or 3 hours of sleep. No wonder they're like fucking miserable. And so in the latest contract, they boosted those workers' wages a lot. I mean, that's kind of what you're talking about. Aquiles, let me ask you a question from one of our viewers. Thanks for the $5, US XXX A-Rod. Question for you: how hard does it make your job to interpret the economy when you're going off numbers provided by an administration that has only sought favorable numbers and hired sycophants? Not to mention, there's been a shutdown and the numbers haven't been available the last 2 months.
It's a great question, and there's no easy answer. We kind of have to, I hate to say this, we have to sift through the BS. And we have to sift through the non-numbers that we don't see. I mean, we're not going to have updated numbers from October. So the Fed is it's not flying blind, but it's most certainly relying on ADP numbers, which is not enough information. Relying on solely PPI, CPI numbers is not enough information for them to do their jobs. I think they're going to have no recourse but to cut rates in December. I don't see that
They're
not
always
happening.
so slow at it.
Yeah.
They, in my opinion.
There's a reason. The minute you get too aggressive with cutting rates, you can throw us into a recession faster than you say, John. It's just so quick. And this occurred before. This is
What do you mean raising rates, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I seems a little reversed today, guys.
Today is Dyslexia Tuesday. So let's talk about some of the big economic news. I can't not let you go without talking about the AI bubble. So everybody, is there one?
No, it's still in its infancy, guys. I mean, we talked about. I talk about this with media all the time. Look at the .com bubble. Yeah, there was a bubble there, but look how fast all of a sudden we're talking about this bubble. The time frame is so condensed, so short. Personally, I think that AI is still in its infancy. There's still a lot to go as far as this is concerned. I think there's still a lot of money to be made in this area, and I'm guilty as charged making that money. So, I also believe in quantum computing. I also believe in related nuclear. Something has to power this. And it ain't going to be solar, and it ain't going to be coal. So your traditional sources aren't going to do that. You need nuclear power in order to make that happen.
On the show where Robbie was filling in for John, we talked about these AI data centers, that are driving up electricity rates, particularly in rural America. And there's thought that it might become a potent political issue, like the new price of eggs.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think that it affects us all, but the byproduct of that is that we are heading into a new era with new technology that is going to benefit all of us.
But isn't it kind of look, I use AI, so I'm not going to bitch about it, but isn't it kind of fucked up that, at a time when we're worried about climate change and greenhouse gases, we're literally amping up the stupidest thing ever is crypto. We literally waste electricity on purpose in order to mine crypto. But now, just so we can have a faster Google search, we're going to fuck up the planet too.
Well, it's beyond Google. I mean, the search itself is much more detailed. It's like Google on steroids. If you look at ChatGPT and you look at how it could fund the business, create opportunities.
ChatGPT let me look at it, but that's a whole different topic.
Yeah, well,
I'm blocked on ChatGPT.
Maybe they don't like you anymore, Ted. You said something, John, and you know about this, the conspiracy behind these companies and how they look to F you out of opportunity.
Seriously.
All right, so question for you, Aquiles, from Katie Catastrophe. Anyone think housing will ever become affordable again? It's a good question.
No, I don't see that. I wish it were true.
Can the government do anything?
I think what would be interesting is someone needs to figure out how can we take the housing starts. Let's just say, for argument's sake, the cost of building housing right now. Bring it back into the country, but affordably. Have special programs that may are quasi subsidized by the government to not what you're accustomed right now, but have some sort of green deal, new deal with these companies where they can construct and rehab apartments or houses. That way, a certain segment of the population can have the American dream, because the American dream, unfortunately, for home ownership is dying. It died a long time ago in Japan. Houses actually were affordable at some point. By the way, the Japanese don't like new homes. I mean, old homes. So
Huh.
you can get an old home pretty cheap over there.
Having
But
slept in one of those old Japanese houses in Kyoto with open courtyards and rice paper walls on a 30-degree day, I can see why they don't like those old homes.
well, they don't have heaters in their homes because of the earthquakes.
Right.
So
And the rice paper walls.
That's it. So, going back, in absence of some sort of quasi-government deal, FHA type deal, I don't see the affordability coming back into the equation anytime soon.
Well, that's
But
going to
who
be
knows? There's a lot of smart people out there, guys.
it's going to be
So
a
you never
political
know.
football in a huge way. I mean, last time this country did any attempt to make housing affordable was like after World War II, urban renewal and public housing. Obviously with mixed results, to say the least, right? But I mean, people are pissed about it. It's literally the American dream, and you're telling them they can't have it.
Yeah, it's a challenge to say the least. But you know what? We have a lot of smart people in this country. So I hope that someone kind of figures it
They all
out.
seem so quiet, though.
Well, you know what? It's not profit making.
Yeah.
When something doesn't make a profit, I'd keep my mouth shut too.
We have a question that was kind of waiting for you from before you came on, from Phil Chats, and thanks for that question. How's Japan looking right now?
Well, Japan is facing a demographic challenge right now. And what's happening there is that, and the same thing in China, where you have this older population, people living into their 80s, 90s, hundreds easily, and there is not enough young people. There is not enough birth rate percentage going up to cover so they're going to face a deficit. They're going to face issues all related to that. Healthcare could become acute.
That's our future too, isn't it? Though I mean,
Yeah, well,
demographically.
it's not just our future. I mean, I see it across Europe going to happen sometime within the next 10 years. Absolutely. I mean, all you have to do is take a lost generation because of World War II. So that's
100%.
the amount of people to cover those pension schemes that they have throughout Europe. It's the numbers don't add up. How are you going to cover that up? Everybody loves Europe. I mean, I get things about Italy every single day, and I'm not Italian, but I get things say, "Hey, come to Italy. You'll get a pension. Do work here or whatever on the cheap or what have you." The life of a digital nomad seems very real until you're in your 60s, 70s, and you realize that you have nothing saved up, for a pension or the like, or there's
Aquiles,
nothing to cover it.
can you take one last question before you take
Of
off?
course.
Okay, because I know you have a heart out. And thank you for sticking around. The K-shaped economy is in the news, and basically that's just a fancy, or not so fancy, but it's a way of just saying the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer. And how much do you believe in that, and how much of a economic and political effect do you think it's going to have?
Hey, if you just look at history, guys, think about it. The rich have always gotten richer, but there's a trade-off here.
Except after a revolution.
That's right.
Well, if you didn't lose your head, you sure made out like a bandit during the French Revolution. So
It's a big if.
and this is why we talked about dual citizenship, or multiple citizenship. Hey, when it's time to get out of Dodge, it's time to get out of Dodge. I'd love to stick around, but you know what? If I have the means and the resources to get the heck out, doesn't mean I'm disloyal to my country. It just means that I'm not going to stick around till somebody figures it out. While stuff goes to hell in a handbasket. So yeah, there's always going to be beneficiaries of chaos in the world. I mean, John would know this as well. Look at Afghanistan. I'm sure that there are beneficiaries aside from the poppy, aside from other type commodities, but I'm sure the middlemen made a lot of money with the withdrawal. The middlemen made a lot of money with the new administration, the Taliban coming back in, and the like. We see that throughout the world. Graft, outside of the U.S., and we have it here in the U.S. Graft works. It is the oil of many of these economies. So the rich, if you're a middleman, if you're someone there who can facilitate, you're going to make out like a bandit during chaos.
I always like to end on a dark note, and so thank you for that, Aquiles. Aquiles Larrea is the head of Larrea Wealth Management in New York City. Thank you so much for joining us, and a real pleasure. And take care and stay safe and don't drive out there.
Thank you, guys. Always a pleasure.
Good to see you.
Nice seeing you.